The 28th Infantry Division is a unit of the Army National Guard and is the oldest division-sized unit in the armed forces of the United States. Some of the units of the division can trace the lineage to Benjamin Franklin's battalion, the Pennsylvania Associators. The division was officially established in 1879 and was later redesignated as the 28th Division in 1917. After the entry of America into the First World War, it is today part of the Pennsylvania Army National Guard, Maryland Army National Guard, Ohio Army National Guard, and New Jersey Army National Guard. It was originally nicknamed the Keystone Division, as it was formed from units of the Pennsylvania Army National Guard, Pennsylvania being known as the Keystone State. During World War II, it acquired the nickname the Bloody Bucket Division by German forces due to its red insignia, but today 28th Infantry Division goes by the name given to it by General Pershing during World War I. Iron Division. The 28th is the first Army National Guard division to field the Stryker infantry fighting vehicle, as part of the Army's reorganization in the first decade of the 2000s. The 28th is also one of the most decorated infantry divisions in the United States Army. Creation. On 12 March 1879, Governor Henry Hoyt signed General Order No. 1 appointing Marge. Gen. John F. Hartranft as the 1st Division Commander of the National Guard of Pennsylvania. From 11 to 18 August 1894, Camp Samuel West. Crawford was the division encampment at Gettysburg. The division was mustered into service for the Spanish-American War in 1898. Pennsylvania was initially levied 10,800 men, in 10 infantry regiments and 4 artillery batteries. The entire division was mustered into service between the 6th of May and the 22nd of July, and while 8,900 men had assembled at Mount Gretna for the muster parade on the 28th of April 1898, there was no difficulty in raising 12,000 men for service in 2.5 months. However, only the 4th, 10th, and 16th Regiments, 3 artillery batteries, and 3 cavalry troops were deployed to Puerto Rico. The 10th Regiment was then sent to the Philippines, being ordered home on the 30th of June 1899. The division was called up to respond to labor disturbances in 1877 and 1900. In 1914, the division was designated the 7th Division as part of a broad reorganization of the National Guard. On the 29th of June 1916, the 7th Division was mustered into service at Mount Gretna and deployed to El Paso, Texas, to serve along the Mexican border as the regular punitive expedition entered Mexico. Major General Charles M. Clement commanded, directing the 1st Brigade comprising the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd Regiments, the 2nd Brigade, the 10th, 16th, and 18th Regiments, and the 3rd Brigade, the 4th, 6th, and 8th Regiments. There was also a regiment of cavalry and 1 of artillery, plus 2 companies of signals troops and medical units. The camp outside El Paso gained the title Camp Stewart after the Adjutant General Thomas J. Stewart. On the 19th of September, 1 brigade was sent home. On the 14th of November, the 1st Artillery left for home, the 18th Infantry left for Pennsylvania on the 18th of December, and the remainder of the division between 2 to 19 January, 1917. It appears that most of the division was mustered out of service the 23rd of February 1917 at Philadelphia. The remnant left on the border included the 8th and 13th Regiments, the newly formed 3rd Artillery and Company C of the Engineers. They were released from active service in March 1917. However, the call-up process for World War I was underway as these units left the border. The 13th Regiment began its return home from Texas on the 21st of March 1917, but en route were told that the mustering out orders had been rescinded. World War I. The division moved to Camp Hancock Gar in April 1917, and was when the entire division was federalized on the 5th of August 1917. From May to the 11th of October 1917, the division was reorganized into the 2-brigade, 4-regiment scheme, and thus became the 28th Division. It thus comprised the 55th Infantry Brigade and the 56th Infantry Brigade. Other units included the 107th, 108th, 109th and 229th Field Artillery Battalions and the 103rd Engineer Combat Battalion. The Turner Publishing account says that the situation for the division at Camp Hancock was dismal. The men arrived there in summer uniforms, which were not replaced by winter ones until the winter was well along. Adequate blankets were not available until January. Training equipment was woeful. There was but one bayonet for each 3 men, machine guns made of wood, and there was but one 37mm gun for the whole division. By May 1918 the division had arrived in Europe, and began training with the British. On the 14th of July, ahead of an expected German offensive, the division was moving forward, with most of it committed to the second line of defense south of the Marne River and east of Château-Thierry. As the division took up defensive positions, the Germans commenced their attack, which became the Battle of Château-Thierry, with a fierce artillery bombardment. When the German assault collided with the main force of the 28th, the fighting became bitter hand-to-hand combat. The 28th repelled the German forces and decisively defeated their enemy. However, 4 isolated companies of the 109th and 110th Infantry stationed on the first defensive line suffered heavy losses. After the battle, General John Pershing, commander of the American Expeditionary Force, visited the battlefield and declared that the 28th soldiers were men of iron, and named 28th ID as his Iron Division. The 28th developed a red keystone-shaped shoulder patch, officially adopted on the 27th of October 1918. During World War I, the division was involved in the Meuse-Argonne, Champagne-Marne, Aisne-Marne, Joux-Seine, and Ypres operations. During the war, it took a total of 14,139 casualties. Interwar period. The division was demobilized on the 17th of May 1919 at Camp Dix, New Jersey. The 28th Division was reorganized and federally recognized the 22nd of December 1921 in the Pennsylvania National Guard at Philadelphia. The location of the headquarters was changed the 12th of March 1933 to Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. An honor battalion of Pennsylvania National Guardsmen of the Iron Division dedicated the Pennsylvania World War Memorial in Argonne, France. In 1928, World War II, the division was activated on the 17th of February 1941 at Camp Livingston, Louisiana. Lineage data gives the same date, but as the date the HHD 28th Division was inducted into federal service the 17th of February 1941 at Harrisburg and Philadelphia. It was reorganized and redesignated on the 17th of February 1942 as headquarters, 28th Infantry Division. That same month the division was reorganized, the brigades were disbanded, and the 111th Infantry Regiment was detached and reorganized as a separate regimental combat team, initially used to guard important eastern seaboard industrial facilities. The division trained in the Carolinas, Virginia, Louisiana, Texas, and Florida. It went overseas on the 8th of October 1943, arriving in South Wales. On the 22nd of July 1944, the division landed in Normandy. It took part in the Normandy, northern France, Rhineland, Ardennes, Alsace, and Central European campaigns. The 28th pushed east towards Paris through the bloating corpse-strewn stench of the Bocage through roads with abandoned tanks. In little more than a month after landing at the Normandy beachhead, the men of the 28th entered Paris and were given the honor of marching down the Champs-Élysées on the 29th of August 1944 in the hastily arranged liberation of Paris. After enjoying a respite, the division headed to the German defensive West Wall. A small night patrol of the 109th Infantry Regiment began the division's protracted struggle on the Siegfried Line on the Dragon's Teeth-infested West Wall. The patrol crossed the Our River by bridge from Weisswamp Patch, Luxembourg into Severnich, Germany, making it the first of the Allied armies to reach German soil. The 28th suffered excessive casualties that autumn in the costly and ill-conceived Battle of the Hürtgen Forest. The divisional history conceded the division accomplished little. The campaign was the longest continuous battle of World War II. Finally, a tenuous line along the Our and Saar rivers was held at the end of November, only to be abruptly broken by 2 panzer divisions, 3 infantry divisions and 1 parachute division in an infantry tank attack on the Ridge Road just west of the Our River on the 16th of December. The Ardennes offensive was launched along the entire divisional front by the 5th Panzer Army led by General der Panzertruppe Hasso von Manteuffel. The 28th, which had sustained heavy casualties in the First Army drive to the Roer, fought doggedly in place using all available personnel and threw off the enemy timetable before withdrawing to Neufchâteau on the 22nd of December for reorganization, as its units had been badly mauled. At the end of November 1944, a German pocket of resistance formed in the French Alsace region centered in the city of Colmar. The Colmar pocket consisted of a strength of 8 German divisions and a brigade of panzer tanks. Combined forces of French and American armies were initially unsuccessful in closing this pocket. General Dwight David Eisenhower, the Supreme Allied Commander, called the Colmar pocket a sore on 6th Army Group's Commander Jacob L. Devers's Western Front. First Army Commanding General Jean de Latte de Tassigny and Devers met on the 11th of January 1945 and agreed it was long since time to drive the Germans back out of France. 2 days later, de Latte and Devers made a request to Eisenhower for reinforcements so their armies could make an offensive on the Colmar pocket. Eisenhower's aide Major General Walter Bedell Smith subsequently told Devers that the 10th Armored Division and the 28th were being placed under his command. Smith also warned Devers that, after 3 months of intense fighting on the Siegfried Line as well as fighting off the initial thrust of the Ardennes offensive, the 28th put back into action in a defensive position along the Meuse River from Givet to Verdun on the 2nd of January 1945 was capable of only limited offensive action. Battle plans were soon made and, on the 19th of January, the 28th went into action on the northwestern section of the pocket in the Kaisersberg Valley supporting the beleaguered 3rd Infantry Division, which had been holding this since late November 1944. Despite the bitterly cold conditions, the Allies prevailed. German intelligence knew nothing about the 10th and 28th presence in the sector until they attacked. The 28th advanced westward and pressed steadily toward the city of Colmar. In less than 10 days they reduced the pocket by half and German Führer Adolf Hitler, who almost always refused to retreat, gave the order in the early morning of the 29th of January for a partial retreat of his troops in the northern sector of the pocket. By the 2nd of February, the 28th had cleared Colmar's surrounding areas and the French 5th Armored Division led the way into the town. On the 9th of February, the final organized German troops in Alsace were pushed back across the Rhine. The 109th Infantry Regiment received the French Croix de Guerre from Charles de Gaulle. The division was on the front line for 196 days of combat. Francis J. Clark was awarded the Medal of Honor and 29 Distinguished Service Crosses, 1 DSM, 435 Silver Stars, 27 Legion of Merit, EDM 21, Bronze Star Medal, 2,312 AM 100 were awarded. The division returned to U.S. on the 2nd of August 1945 and was inactivated on the 13th of December 1945. Assignments in ETA: the 22nd of October 1943, 5th Corps, 1st Army. The 14th of April 1944, 20th Corps, 3rd Army. The 24th of April 1944, 3rd Army, but attached to 1st Army. The 26th of July 1944, 19th Corps. The 30th of July 1944, 19th Corps, 1st Army. The 1st of August 1944, 19th Corps, 1st Army, 12th Army Group. The 28th of August 1944, 5th Corps. The 19th of November 1944, 8th Corps. The 20th of December 1944, 8th Corps, 3rd Army, 12th Army Group. The 5th of January 1945, 8th Corps, 3rd Army, 12th Army Group, but attached to WAS Section, Communications Zone, for supply. The 6th of January 1945, 8th Corps, 3rd Army, 12th Army Group. The 8th of January 1945, 3rd Army, 12th Army Group. The 9th of January 1945, 15th Army, 12th Army Group. The 16th of January 1945, 15th Army, 12th Army Group, but attached to 7th Army, 6th Army Group. The 20th of January 1945, French 2nd Corps. The 28th of January 1945, 21st Corps. The 14th of February 1945, 15th Army, 12th Army Group, but attached to 7th Army, 6th Army Group. The 19th of February 1945, 12th Army Group. The 21st of February 1945, 5th Corps, 1st Army, 12th Army Group. The 16th of March 1945, 8th Corps, 3rd Army, 12th Army Group. The 22nd of March 1945, 5th Corps, 1st Army, 12th Army Group. The 28th of March 1945, 3rd Corps. The 7th of April 1945, 1st Army, 12th Army Group. The 10th of April 1945, 15th Army, 12th Army Group. The 13th of April 1945, 22nd Corps. The 26th of April 1945, 23rd Corps. Medal of Honor, Technical Sergeant Francis J. Clark, U.S. Army, K. Co. 109th Infantry Regiment received the Medal of Honor for gallantry during the Siegfried Line campaign. Desertion. Edward Donald Slovic was a private in the 109th Infantry Regiment during World War II and the only American soldier to be executed for cowardice since the American Civil War. Although over 21,000 soldiers were given varying sentences for desertion during World War II, including 49 death sentences, Slovic's was the only death sentence carried out. Post-World War II service. After being inactivated as part of the Army on the 13th of December 1945 at Camp Shelby, Mississippi, The 28th Infantry Division was reorganized on the 20th of November 1946 and returned to the Pennsylvania Army National Guard at Harrisburg. The 28th was ordered into active federal service the 5th of September 1950 at Harrisburg following the outbreak of the Korean War. The division reopened the mothballed Camp Atterbury, Indiana, and remained there from the 13th of September 1950 to the 23rd of November 1951. It was sent to Germany to augment NATO forces in Germany. During the Korean War, the 28th was mobilized and deployed to Europe as a part of the NATO command defending Western Europe from the threat of Soviet attack and remained on federal service until the 22nd of May 1954. On the 1st of June 1959, the division was reorganized under the Potomac structures. It consisted from that point of 1st Reconnaissance Squadron, 103rd Armor, 28th Signal Battalion, 28th Aviation Battalion, 1 BG 109 INF, 1 BG 110 INF, 1 BG 111 INF, 2 BG 111 INF, 1 BG 112 INF, 1st Battalion, 107th Field Artillery Regiment, 108 FA, 109 FA, 109 FA, 166 FA, 229 FA. Other combat and combat support units and combat service support units, for a strength of 10,408. According to divisional strength reports of the 5th of June 1959, the division was not mobilized during the Vietnam War, although in 1965 it was selected as one of 3 divisions in the Army Selective Reserve Force, nor was it mobilized in force for Operation Desert Storm in 1991. However, the 121st Transportation Company, one of its constituent units, served in Saudi Arabia, and volunteers from the division were deployed overseas, some in the Middle East. In 1996, after the signing of the Dayton Agreement, some units of the divisional artillery were called up to serve as peacekeeping forces in Bosnia. Elements of the 28th served in Bosnia as peacekeepers for several years following this. In 2002, the 28th Division took command of the Northern Brigade Task Force, as part of the NATO peacekeeping mission in Bosnia as part of SFOR-12. The leading combat arms units under the 28th while in Bosnia were the 109th Infantry and the 104th Cavalry. The division was the 3rd Reserve Component Division headquarters to take on this role in Bosnia. 21st century. In 2003, the 28th Division again led KFOR, the NATO peacekeeping mission in Kosovo, as part of KFOR-5A for a 9-month rotation. The 28th was the 1st Reserve Component Division headquarters to take on this role in Kosovo. Later in 2005, elements of the 28th Division would again return to Kosovo as part of KFOR's KFOR-6B rotation, the first year-long rotation by U.S. troops to the region. During the global war on terror following the 11th of September 2001 attacks on the U.S., the Keystone Division has provided troops for Operation Enduring Freedom, Operation Noble Eagle, and several thousand troops for Operation Iraqi Freedom. Company A, 28th Signal Battalion deployed to Iraq in February 2004. Elements of the 103rd Armor Regiment and 1st Battalion, 107th Field Artillery were activated for Iraq in January 2004. Elements of 2nd Battalion, 103rd Armor, served as military police. The division's 2nd Brigade Combat Team deployed to Iraq for a year-long rotation in July 2005. Elements of the division would again return in 2006, and revolving deployments to Iraq seem likely in the future. The 56th Stryker Brigade Combat Team deployed in 2008 to Iraq. The Combat Aviation Brigade, 28th Infantry Division deployed to Iraq in May 2009. Operation Enduring Freedom, September 2009 November 2010 Company C. 110th INF attached to TF 2nd BCT 101st served as a platoon-size force protection for PRTs in Paktika, Gardas, and COST with support elements in FOB Salerno. On the 28th of August 2010 the platoon under 1 LT Dickey repelled a Haqqani coordinated attack at FOB Chapman.